welcome back to the Smite Pro League, or at least the Relegations for the Smite Pro League. Bonus Smite is where we're at right now. We're deep in the world of tiebreakers. The Papis versus Victorious Secret is who we're up to next, Toli. And the way you broke it down for me is he who gets 2 losses is out.
That's true. We're in game number 8 of today. Papis already lost in the tiebreakers against Burrito. Very epic game, lasting 40+ minutes. We'll take a look at the schedule here momentarily of what happened earlier on today. But if Papis were to lose this game against Victorious Secret, then both Burrito and Victorious Secret would advance to the European SPL.
However, if the Papis go ahead and lose here, or excuse me, if the Papis go ahead and win here, then we continue on to see Burrito versus Victorious Secret. So everything on the line for these folks. Don't forget, what we're actually fighting for here is a chance to be in the SPL itself. And this is, if you guys are paying attention to what's happening with the Season 5, this is potentially the final relegation. We're essentially shortening the league down to 6 teams, and we're not going to have any relegation any longer. So this is perhaps the most important tournament of these young players' lives. Let's get to our picks and bans very quickly, and we'll see how these games wind up going. One more time, it's going to be the Papis versus Victorious Secret. Right away, no Monkey King.
No Sun Wukong, no funny business, no 72 transformations. Erlang Shen has been surprisingly played rather consistently, at least in this European relegation. I don't feel as though North America prioritizes it as much as Europe does.
I mean, when it comes down to it, Erlang Shen is able to do a little bit of the team fight control by way of the taunt, although it's an ultimate. He does have a couple of, he does have the knockup in hand as well, but it's the root that kind of makes him very scary in my eyes. The Scotty ban, almost standard at this point. Scotty has been played or picked or banned in virtually every game that we've seen this afternoon, and the ones that she plays in, she tends to do well in.
I mean, Permafrost is a really good ability that just hurts feelings, so apparently Papis, they don't want their feelings hurt.
Stop trying to force the issue here. Oh, man, I can't believe I said it. I said it.
You said it. I did
fell into the trap.
See, I got people forcing the issue for me. That's how you know I made it in life.
Ravana coming through as the first pick overall. He's looked fantastic in the jungle all day. Cernunnos will be selected across the way for Victorious Secret. Thoth will be played one more time by the Papis with Ganesha there in the support role. Dracomarino has looked so good on the Ganesh. And there's that Erlang Shen you were talking about.
A lot of offensive tools here for Papis. So much aggression between Ravana and Ganesha. And then you got the long-range setup ability, artillery rather, from Thoth. Yeah. That's gonna follow up and just absolutely wreck everybody. So that's why Victorious Secret is going for this Geb option, trying to survive as long as possible. We haven't really seen Cernunnos, at least today, too often.
We've seen him here and there. Spudio played a strong Cernunnos earlier on this afternoon, but our second round of bans say notice of Warriors, Osiris and Odin will be taken off. And then the other monkey, Hunbats and Kamazats, 2 very strong junglers banned out by the Papis. Right now, I think the Papis are crushing this pick ban phase. Nemesis by Vic. Look at Ravana and Ganesh. These characters have brought them wins on Dheylo and Dracomarino, respectively, all day. You've got long-range damage for your mid lane on Thoth. Jing is here with Bellona. Listen, I love this draft. MrNazer for the Papis has been kind of tumultuous, let's say. He's been able to play all right, but sometimes gets himself into trouble. Thoth is a character with nice dash. He can stay all the way on the back line. I think this draft is looking perfect for the Papis.
I mean, so far, from what I've seen from MrNazer today, has outweighed everything that Oho Boom was able to do in the previous split for Papis. So this has been a great transition for them thus far. As we're going to head into the game here momentarily, like you were talking about in the team compositions, I'm favoring Papis here, especially if they lean a little bit towards that solo lane the way they did before the tiebreaker started.
Like I said, Dheylo and Dracomarino are the 2 standout players for me on this team in general, and now that it's relegation time, trying to avoid it, looking even more fantastic than you might have expected. We'll hop into the game, and there it is, MrNazer on that Thoth. And just expanding on what I said, MrNazer kind of ruined the chances of the Papis winning last game. Black and white, flat out. And that was because he was a little bit too pushed up, kind of dangerous. Hopefully this time around he'll be able to play a little bit safer. We'll see if that will happen.
It's very risky as a mage to, face check any sort of situation. Even if it's not necessarily the ultimate late game where you're going to get 1 or 2 shot, it's still important to make your support or solo laner to check for you, because you don't want to be able to use your relics in a situation where you don't necessarily have to.
Right now, everything's spawning, and you can see the Papis staying aggressive as we ask them to. The jungler and the solo looking for the invade around on the speed buff. Dealing with Erlang, Shen, and FrostiaK, preventing them from getting their own buff. Now, Dheylo and Creed don't get anything, but neither do Julio and FrostiaK. So it's sort of a everyone loses, so by nature we win. But
it's also it's going to be the benefit for Papis, because they were the ones to clear the first wave first. Recognizing this, they're going to be super aggressive in the second wave, and that's where the action's going to kick off.
Dracomarino joining MrNazer here. And this clear should go the way of Thoth guy. There it is. Although that turret for Mr. Stefan, very strong. And Mr. Stefan, what we've said a lot about this guy is that, listen, his god pool may be small, but what he's able to do on the Vulcan is outright scary.
I really like the fact that Papis didn't commit to an invade yet. The communication was very clear that even though they were able to out-clear the solo lane, they could not match that pace in the mid lane. So respecting that potential 4-on-2 collapse, electing to go for those fire giant elementals. Now, unfortunately didn't get the big guy, but they're going to walk away with the 2 little dudes and just get a little bit of something.
Jing we played today, something that was a character that we haven't really seen too often, not a lot of her recently, as we head into our relegation. What do you think about Jing here in the new world of Smite?
Well, considering that Fatalis is not part of her kit or an item that can be purchased here for physical hunters, she obviously took a big hit, but she's still one of the safest goddesses in Smite, considering her passive, to be able to stay in the laning phase for as long as possible, or at least get back to it without losing any gold or experience under the towers. But being a match against the Cernunnos in teamfight situations, there's going to be more control coming out of Spudio with that Wild Hunt, that huge AoE ult that's going to transform everybody into a boar.
Well, that's certainly true. I absolutely love Persistent Gust. I think it's a strong ability when it comes to team fights. You pop that under somebody for a big knockup. I mean, that's huge. And then, of course, if you want to use it on yourself to escape. But I think Warchi on this pick, she might not be number 1. I think that belongs to Scotty, clean and clear. But Jing I think, is, at the very least, undervalued at the moment.
Now, don't get me wrong. Persistent Gust can make or break a specific team fight, but it's very conditional in terms of getting a clutch position, catching somebody off guard, and forcing them closer towards your team. And that's something that Warchi is going to be looking for, whereas Victoria's Secret are going to try to play around it.
Dheylo is lurking. We saw what happened the last time Dheylo lurked around the solo lane. It was none too pretty for the opposing team. However, this time, no gank is coming out of it. Dheylo instead just looking for some of the farm here on the right side of the map. Here comes Creed and Dracomarino. Creed's going to jump on the back end, forcing Mr. Stefan out. Not level 5 just yet for the Vulcan, and that's going to be a big deal. Jumping to the back line is Dheylo, as he is level 5, and Mr. Stefan won't hit it. Not in this team fight. He'll hit the ground. First blood for the Papis.
Perfect setup from Dracomarino, catching Mr. Stefan off guard. His beads were already used earlier on. Dheylo was doing a good job harassing that backline before any of his teammates got in position, and that's what allowed for a very clean first blood from Papis, because the first Fire Giant Elementals went the way of Victoria's Secret there, just being able to out-collapse Papis, but this time around in the second respawn wasn't the same story.
Right there, Dheylo. Right there shows why Dheylo has gone back to this Ravana selection time and time again. I mean, the front line for Victoria's Secret was set up. It looked real nice, but as Aggro loves to say, one of his favorite phrases, dab, dive all backlines. That's what Dheylo does with the Ravana ult. Straight back to the end, and then collapses on the Vulcan and just crushes him.
I mean, honestly, his first primary target was actually FrostiaK, considering he was at about 25% health, but his Mystic Rush couldn't really connect on him, considering the double dash separated too much distance. However, he'll gladly settle for a Vulcan in the mid lane instead. Anytime you can have an opportunity to shut down a heavy burst mage, to prevent them from popping off in the mid to late game, that's a huge win for your team.
And especially the Vulcan had not hit level 5 yet, so he didn't have the ultimate available for him. We might have seen the Vulcan, if he's 5, sulk back under the tower and then try to shoot a long-range ult. Only level 4, not going to be the case, so down he goes. Great target selection by Dheylo.
And considering Mr. Stefan started Lost Artifact just now, finishing off Shoes of Magi, it limits his options of probably what he wants to do here. Maybe his mindset was, all right, if I get off to a great start, I'm going to go into this Doom Orb, I'm going to get off a huge magical power, but now with this early death from him, I don't expect it to be a Doom Orb. I'm more than likely expecting either an early Chronos Pendant or just leaving it as a tier 1, and then once your second, third item's complete, that's where you go for the big boy.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that build path, to be honest with you. And you know, just one more advantage that the Papis earn from that first blood is now they have control over those elementals. Before it was Victoria's Secret and the Papis tried to wrestle it from them, but after that first blood, the Papis have guaranteed control of at least the next 2, the very next spawn, because they took it right after the kill. They get that secondary spawn right there, and if they're able to hit that as soon as the timer goes off, they're going to continue until level 10.
The front line from Papis is going to be very aggressive here. We're looking at Dheylo playing Rav and Creed playing Bellona here, but it's a surprise coming out of Victoria's Secret, but not on the mark.
Dheylo's so quick with the flip kick. The blink instantaneous cataclysm. Dheylo uses his immunity as soon as he hears the blink come in because he knows the follow-up ability from the Geb. What a wonderful play by the Papis jungler. Mr. Stefan avoids the long-range shot from MrNazer. Mr. Not going to be the story today.
Great juke just to sidestep it to the right. Otherwise, that more than likely would have been a guaranteed kill. It's not a level 2 ultimate, but even though it's not that second point, Doom Orb at 24 stacks for MrNazer. He's very confident that his front line between Creed and Dheylo is going to create that separation of safety space along the fact that he is a Thoth.
I'm actually a big fan of Doom Orb most of the time. I think Doom Orb, 1, it's going to give you a lot of the mana sustain that allows you to stay in lane a little bit longer than some of the other choices. And 2, even at low amounts of stacks, we're talking a couple of 12, 13, 15 stacks, you're going to be mathematically more efficient than some of the other options. So what this winds up happening is that you're actually just going to stay relevant in the early game more so than if you go a different item. Thoth is a character that needs those items solely, and with the Doom Orb at level, what is this, 40 stacks already, he's swinging much, much earlier. He's relevant at 7 minutes when most Thoths without this item aren't.
And he's willing to sacrifice the mobility considering just how much range he has. Whenever he drops that wall between his abilities, his in-hands, he has no fear. He's going to be heavily relying on Dheylo and Dracomarino to basically dab all over Victoria's Secret.
And yeah, like you said, the dash is a very big deal. Thoth by default is going to be a little bit more safe than some of the other options in that mid lane, so that also allows you to forego boots just a little while. Much different story if you're playing a Ra or a character that doesn't have that dash available. So, MrNazer's choice to go Doom Orb, I like it and I love it. The Poppy still the only one on the board. Even so, about 1,000 gold up.
And so far, we've been talking about these offensive options, but more defensive-minded here is LanceWolf on the Geb, rushing this reinforced Grieve, and Geb already survives pretty well on his own, considering his passive, considering that Geb shield, and now just getting more protections after every source of damage makes it more difficult for Papis to blow all their cooldowns on this one support.
Well, what I always bring up every time we talk about reinforced Graves is going to be the crowd control reduction. You're going to get stunned. There are so many options that you see out of the guys on the Papis to stun him. Most notably, even Thoth is going to have to stun if he gets in trouble after the dash. Well, that's going to help the Geb get out of there and immediately apply some of the shields to the other players that might be in trouble. Warchi, Dracomarino, they're going to provide a lot of damage. And so LanceWolf is going to be very important, dishing out those shields.
And between supports, you can honestly go almost any boots, minus pen boots, and you could get away with it. You can go Traveler shoes.
I like pen boots on Athena.
All right, I like it on Bacchus and only Bacchus.
Sure, Bacchus too.
As a support. Maybe even Ymir here and there. That's not too shabby. Or Ares. But anyway, I digress.
That was so many Guardians.
It's a lot of Guardians, but they're all offensive Guardians. Athena can be a little bit aggressive, but anyway, Going back on the defensive option here, LanceWolf now just finishing off that Jade Emperor's Crown as well as Dracomarino. So we can clearly see a distinction between a lot of supports wanting to rush this item because it's not necessarily helping them out primarily with huge defense or health. It's helping out teammates.
Link knock up, and that's the kill! Dracomarino gets comboed into oblivion. Get blinks forward, secures the stun. There's a knockup from Mr. Stefan after the Nemesis ult into the giant ultimate from Mr. Stefan. Just like that, he starts stacking the Doom Orb. Love it.
It's the fact that you can pick on a support such as Ganesha that doesn't have any sort of crowd control immunity, and without reinforced greaves for that support, you can chain CC him a little bit longer and look to get kills like that before these defensive items truly get online.
You know, I was saying when I was saying is that the game doesn't start till you start your Doom Orb. Right? So the death that happened earlier doesn't really matter because he didn't lose any stacks. Now that it's there, different story. Double stun for the solo laner out of Creed, and Dheylo follows up. Mr. Stefan barely alive. That death will count. Cut that 10 in half. Creed gets credit for the big one. MrNazer primed and ready. Not gonna go just yet. Dheylo's still on the chase. LanceWolf is here. Couple of shots out of MrNazer, but it won't find a kill.
We're seeing MrNazer miss that ultimate, and he actually neglected Julio that whole time around, which allowed him to find that kill onto Mr. Stefan with great focus fire. Now making the rotation is Spudio here, but the team fight has ended, allowing Warchi to get all the solo farm in the world, sitting
Warchi,
2 levels ahead.
How many stacks does Warchi have? 58 stacks of the Devo gloves. If Warchi has this fully stacked up, I mean, even with just rank 2 of either Executioner or the Chin side, whichever direction he goes in, this is a fully stacked Devo gloves. He's able to solo this Gold Fury. Very lucky for the guys at Victoria's Secret that Warchi doesn't have these stacks just yet.
And even so, still waiting on some of his abilities to be maxed out. At level 14, now you're maxing out the Persistent Gust and the Agility, which means your physical power and attack speed is just going to increase so much that that Gold Fury will melt along with the lifesteal that you get from Devo gloves. If you have a 15-second window, that's all you need if you're Warchi.
Look at the incredible amount of farm that our hunters have been able to get. Just now hitting level 12 is Creed on the Bellona in the solo lane. But Warchi, level 14, he has 3 items completed, one of which is a fully stacked stacking item at 70 stacks, recently changed on that Devo's gloves. It's 12 minutes in. How are they able to get this much farm? I
mean, with Xingwei being left alone, it's not really too surprising because she is farming these back harpies on cooldown by herself.
760 experience per minute.
That's 750 for the Xingwei, 637 for Spudio here, a difference of 120 per minute. And this is a huge benefit for Papis. Now they're going to start aggressing towards this Gold Fury.
I like the fact for the Papis that Victoria's Secret just used the Cernunnos ultimate. That's a big deal. There's the ultimate, and Warchi is going to be able to avoid it thanks to the Aegis. The Gold Fury won't be the charge any longer. It's going to be Mr. Stefan one more time. LanceWolf dies off screen. Stefan dies on screen. That's another death that'll count. Warchi gets out thanks to the ultimate. Julio camping him and finds the last basic, but MrNazer takes down Spudio. Julio, the last one alive here, totally in this team fight, as FrostiaK finds an exit towards the mid lane, and the Turtle will find his way out. The Papis earned themselves the red buff.
3 for 1. Great performance from Papis thus far. They're trying to keep their relegation dreams and hopes alive. They need to win this one and then hope that the next one is going to be a loss for Victoria's Secret to stay in the SPL. And even though Warchi took a spill in that last engagement, 3 members died from Victoria's Secrets with a 4-on-2 advantage. First Gold Fury going the way of Papis.
That's still incredible. Before that team fight happens, Warchi was earning 760 experience a minute. I can't even handle that. Like that, he's level 15 at 13 and a half minutes. That's insane.
That's like Season 3 solo lane status when there was a huge mismatch in the matchup.
So right now, the Papis really need to leverage that. They have a level 15 Hunter who's starting to build into crit with Executioner and a full power build on the fully stacked Devo gloves. That's a lot of power. let Warchi go. Let him go fight people and earn them towers.
It's going to be Julio that needs to upgrade that shell as soon as possible to get those 2 block stacks. Considering Warchi's sitting at level 16 here, these in-hands are going to start chunking away. The physical defense is not clearly evident here from Victoria's Secret quite yet. We're seeing Gladiator Shell completed for Julio, still working on that Mystical Mail. But other than that, you're looking at Jade Emperor's Crown just to limit a little bit of his power.
FrostiaK and Julio do a good job of chipping away at the right-hand tower, tier 1. Just half HP already, just by 2 players beating into it. Nice little vision denial by Creed.
Trying to disrupt those in-hands with the turtle. Vulcan ult being committed very prematurely here by Mr. Stefan. It's going to force the reset, but I don't think Papis necessarily mind. They have plenty of ultimates to be able to combat this.
There's going to be some aggression onto Julio, who finds himself getting hit through the wall by MrNazer. Shield is good, and the blink forward from LanceWolf is better. Nice control coming out from the guys on Victoria's Secret, but not enough to find any kills. Dheylo is chasing, still has the ult available. As soon as he sees the Aegis, he decides not to go for it.
And Warchi, recognizing that team fight was going in his team's favor anyway, and Spudio was on the left lane. Free Portal Demon, he solos it.
Devo gloves.
Just like that.
Devo gloves. This is what Devo gloves do for you. Now, recently they have been buffed. Even before the buff, you were able. Devo gloves is the item that allows you to solo objectives as a hunter. Basically, you get a ton of power, you get a decent amount of lifesteal, and it's that lifesteal totally that allows you to go ahead and just solo whatever you want. And there are items that change the way hunters are able to play or characters are able to play. This opens up an option that you don't usually have outside of this itemization choice. The 1-4 split where your hunter gets an objective and 4 players go team fight, that's not available if you're going the Ikaval Rush. That's not available if you're going Transcendence Rush. I love the way this opens up options for the hunter player.
Devo Gloves received a base 5 physical power buff, and on top of that, once you finish stacking it, an additional 5 physical power buff, going from a total net of 55 to 65. And not only that, an additional 5 less stacks having to commit as a hunter makes it a little easier to try to get some of these power plays that Warchi has been able to do here. Sitting here with a 2-level advantage, he's able to bully Spudio constantly here, even though Spudio has an Aussie and a natural lifesteal in his kit.
And those changes sound small, but it's about the grand scheme of things, right? And we'll continue that conversation in a moment. There's another setup, and Dheylo suffers this time. FrostiaK gets credit for the kill. Nazer lining him up. Not going to fire the shot just yet.
This time around, Dheylo was not too quick on the trigger finger to get that overhead kickoff.
He was knocked up, and that's the beauty of what happens with Victoria's Secret. They come in, they find the stun into the knock-up Nemesis ult, and then that secures it.
Just the timing of it from Victoria's Secret was just flawless completely. If they can consistently do that on Dheylo and without that frontliner from Papis, now you're opening the door to be able to dive Nazer and Warchi.
Right, exactly. Dheylo has been such a catalyst, such a force for the Papis, both offensively and defensively. He basically zones people out and accidentally kills them in the process. That's kind of what he's doing here on this Ravana. He's jumping to the back line, making sure they can't do the opposite, and then just, oh, you're dead. I'm sorry. Kind of like just pulling a Lenny. I just wanted to push you, but instead you're in your fountain. My bad.
And now he's trying to go for a kind of a utility style with this wing blade. He's trying to counteract that Nemesis ulti every single time just to be able to either continue to chase her or to outrun her and look to dive that backline. And by having this Brawler Speed Stick, it's going to limit some of the self-sustain options, specifically out of Julio once he pops that ultimate, trying to shut him down before that 4-second window.
That's the thing. You look at Erlang Shen, you say it's just an Erlang Shen. There's not a lot of healers here. And yes, I know the item is 40 power, 20 penetration, and that's all well and good. But what it comes down to is that shutting down the healing for Julio completely changes the way that the Erlang Shen can actually impact the team fight.
Warchi getting this goal theory very low. Dracomarino is going to reset it here. Bait the Vulcan ultimate.
Every time. They've been able to do that twice so far. Bait the Vulcan ultimate off of the objective. Maybe a third time. I don't remember if they were able to bait it out before the last Gold Fury, which did go the way of the Papis once they actually secured it.
Restarting the Gold Fury.
Oh my
5
goodness.
ultimates against 4. Papis with an advantage, constantly unleashing the Gold Fury back and forth. Dracomarino looking for the potential dash knockup, which could set up a lot of follow-up damage between Nazer and Warchi, but Victoria's Secret, they're wrapping around. FrostiaK is looking to go on the hunt.
Yeah, this is a nice flank coming out from FrostiaK. Nazer sniffs it out, though, so the Papis are well aware. Level 19, Warchi is right now. He's got 2.5 crit items, basically. He's looking to murder somebody.
Just like that. Still doing a good job baiting is Dheylo. Gold Fury less than half health, baiting out the blink
Warchi
engage.
needs to stay. He needs to stay on it, otherwise it's going to be snatched. But the Papis say no, securing the objective. And up front, now it's team fight time. Dheylo's going to fall down thanks to Julio. Well done controlling the Robin jungle, but Creed answers back, taking out Stefan.
1 for 1 thus far. It was Papis that got the Gold Fury. Creed with the last hit. Warchi is not done yet. Backpedaling, very confident that he's able to sustain and get some more offensive opportunities. Creed, though, is in a bad position here. He doesn't have his ultimate. Picking up the speed buff will give him the mobility, but look at the left-hand side of the map here, Tom. It's going to be Nazer getting this tier 1 tower.
Looking like Alamar with a whole bunch of archers there, taking out the tier 1 tower. But Warchi, I mean, there's no reason for him to be afraid. He's got a lead on virtually everybody. And Creed was just bringing the players to Warchi. And as soon as they turned the corner, it was 3-on-2. They still didn't want to take the fight. Our hunter just hits level 20. Scary, scary guy.
Geb was a little low, as well as Julio not wanting to pull the trigger there. It's interesting to see that Warchi is going for crit for Poison Star and Wind Demon, considering he's against a Geb. That's going to limit a lot of that damage. So as long as Warchi can avoid hitting LanceWolf, that's all that really matters. You're looking to try to shut down FrostiaK and limit his DPS potentially if you can crit him to apply that Poison Star passive.
Well, one of the things that crit does extremely well is destroy the OBJs. The objectives just melt. You saw him just repeatedly critting for 500 to 600 over and over and over again. Gold Fury, Fire Giant, and Portal Demon are going to melt with this build, and that's definitely a big deal of what the Papis have been able to do and why they're leading by 6,000 gold.
You don't necessarily have to have flat penetration as a hunter if you're relying on your in-hands anyway. Executioner will do the job for you for not only the PvP fights against enemy gods, but also towards melting Gold Fury, Portal Demon, Fire Giant.
Creed and Dracomarino looking to collapse on Julio and FrostiaK, the culprits that stole the Papis tier 1 tower here on the solo lane side of things. Nice stun, stuns out the Erlang Shen for the moment. There's the defensive lead from Creed. That's a really big win on the side of Victoria's Secret, forcing that one out. Mr. Stefan almost gets forced out himself. There's a sprint. Everybody's after the Vulcan. He got hit by Nazer, and now it's all up to Dheylo. Great knockup by Julio to stop his own mid laner from dying.
However, FrostiaK was left alone with MrNazer. 1 for 1 trade as Warchi took out LanceWolf before that. Popping the sprint, trying to get away. The crits are popping off for Warchi.
FrostiaK barely alive, and so the same could be said about Julio. And both of them fall right before our eyes. That's crit, baby.
That's crit right there. Poison Star, Wind Demon at its finest. We haven't seen this since about the midpoint of Season 3 when everyone was running that combination here. And Warchi is showing us that you don't necessarily need a Fatalis effect on a character to make crit work.
I mean, this is really scary, because when hunters get to this point in the game, when it's late game, they become the stoppers, right? Where, listen, just get me to level 20, let me get my crit, and then I will 4-shot people. Just put somebody in my sights for long enough that I can hit them 3 or 4 times, and then, yeah, they'll have 10 HP and you can kill them. I really don't care. Warchi is doing a fantastic job here at doing exactly that. The return of crit can be scary for everybody that is not a tank. LanceWolf, he's feeling okay. Everyone else, I don't know about that.
Papis considering pulling this Fire Giant. Creed is going to engage, and LanceWolf spots it right around the corner with FrostiaK and Stefan approaching, but this is a bait here, Tom. They want to try to focus out the Vulcan yet again, get his ultimate off the team fight, and then re-engage the same way they've been doing every single time.
Mr. Stefan's ultimate just now becoming available one more time. When the Papis pulled, it was actually still down from the last engagement. Now still biding their time, looking for farm elsewhere. So MrNazer, level 16 here. I keep looking at Warchi going, oh, it's super late game. No, Warchi is level 20. Our mid laners are 16 and 15.
And Nazer, he's looking for some more farm, considering that last death strips the Doom Orb stacks by half. He's sitting at 32 stacks now with a very interesting build, going for Shoes of Focus as opposed to the penetration of with Magi. Considering he has the Doom Orb, that kind of complements having more cooldown reduction anyway, so you're able to get off more dashes and more stuns. So between MrNazer on the stun and Dracomarino on the dash knockup, those are your two wombo combo abilities that Papis are relying on to engage this team fights.
Even still, you know, Doom Orb is one of those items where you get 2 power per stack, right? And you're looking at 38, 40 stacks. It's still an absorbent amount of damage. It's still, you know, as long as dying once doesn't matter. Dying twice, still not the greatest, but okay. It's when you start dying back to back that really starts to get into it. 25 stacks, cut in half again. Now you got to go build up stacks. But if you're sitting at 30, 40 stacks, it doesn't matter.
And at 25 minutes into the game, the farming for mid mages has been eliminated.
Yeah.
You cannot safely farm if you don't have vision in the side jungles where the enemies might be roaming around. So you're looking at maybe 6 stacks per wave at the greatest. You're not going to be farming back harpies and mid harpies every single time because those are going to be off cooldown. So Victoria's Secret, though, they need to figure out a way to get back into this game. They're struggling by about 7,000 gold.
Spudio looking for the gold tree by himself, but Warchi shows up and just looks at him.
It's a level 20 Jingwei with a red buff, fully finished build. Deathbringer now is going to apply so much extra damage on every single crit.
Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff. Warchi able to go ahead and activate his AoE basics as well, which just make things even scarier.
An additional percentage of crit. It doesn't hurt Warchi or his fans. Golfier are going to be engaged. 2 of them already going to the Papis. FrostiaK trying to show face, but Warchi secures it.
Nice stun on the Spudio. FrostiaK once existed, and then he was crit. Root. See you later. Warchi takes him out in what could be one basic attack. The crits are insane for the Papis. And you know what's interesting here? Looking at Warchi's build, Tully. Critical strike is supposed to be a dice roll. What is his critical chance right now?
It's so you get 20% from Deathbringer, 20. The buff from the Poison Star is also 20%, and so 60% total. I think maxing out his second ability gives him additional 15%. I'm not sure if there is a cap for critical strike, but
look at him. He is critting more often than he is not. That is the scary part about this build. So he's just hitting basic attacks for like 400 or 500.
Especially if these melee characters from Victoria's Secret is grouped up when he does proc his steroid ability, he's just going to be melting them all. Even if LanceWolf is there, he's going to be using that Gab as kind of a meat shield to splash the other shots.
Pretty much, and Warchi walks through the portal, no fear. Fire Giant unceremoniously goes to the Papis. 27.5 on the clock. The Papis are leading by 6 kills, and they're leading by 10,000, 11,000 gold here versus Victoria's Secret. The Papis topple the tier 1 tower here in the middle lane, looking for the tier 2 next. Victoria's Secret, I don't think you should defend here.
Not
I think
at all.
you choose to defend on the Phoenix.
Absolutely here. Papis, this is do or die for them in terms of the relegation standing. They lost to Burrito in the previous game. They win this one. They keep their hopes and dreams alive. Engaging is Dracomarino, diving the backline as Creed. Nemesis ultimate on the Bellona. Vulcan ultimate, doing a lot.
Taking out Creed just like that. Julio gets the last tap. Tier 2 tower goes down. That's what the Papis were looking for. I don't know if they want to take this fight. 1 player down on the side of the Papis. Victoria's Secret do have control for the moment, but you know what, Toli? If 1 player gets rooted, stunned, controlled, that's going to happen to them. And Warchi is just able to delete them. Even still, love to see the restraint shown by the Papis to retreat there. They do have the Fire Giant. Gambling with it, don't take it. go for the absolute wins, no problem. We're going to see the Papis group up one more time, and then Siege likely to be the left side of the map, looking for the final remaining tower.
The Papis have a little bit of wiggle room to play around with, and that was their experimentation to see what they can get away with by diving, or attempting to dive that tier 2 tower. They were successful in the Siege, weren't successful in terms of getting anything after that. So with Creed now reviving, Fire Giant still around 4 members from Papis for another minute and 50 seconds. They're going to strip away this last remaining tier 2 tower and still have enough time to go for at least 1 Phoenix.
I don't even think the Papis need the Fire Giant. With that said, it's just bonus bucks.
It always helps, especially with Nazer dropping this wall here to amplify his damage, as well as Warchi for a little bit in this tower sieges.
LanceWolf comes through and uses the Geb ultimate, but Victoria's Secret a little bit too far away to actually follow up. Instead, that was more a defensive stop, trying to get the Papis off of the tier 2 tower, just trying to waste the time of the Fire Giant. They successfully pushed them off the tower for about 10 seconds or so, which at the end of the day is a net win.
It's not a bad idea to use that, considering he has a Ritual Dagger. However, the ultimate is not going to be available for this Siege on the left.
The ultimate out of MrNazer, able to hit LanceWolf and Julio. There's going to be a fantastic Spudio ult, turning everybody into pigs. Not going to cook him as the Vulcan ultimate off the mark. Warchi all the way in the back line, just shooting out the lasers as the Phoenix is already down. He gets bitten down low and forced out with the ultimate, but as I said, the target, the Phoenix, it's down. Warchi, oh, don't let him hit the bait. Let him hit the minions.
Papis got what they came for. He could have been hitting the minions for the lifesteal, sure, but they want to get back as soon as possible. LanceWolf, though, wants to prevent it. Meatball not on the mark. Papis still going to be able to run away for the moment here. LanceWolf still looking for the blink. Hits off cooldown.
MrNazer killed those back harpies. Warchi really needed to lifesteal off of them. LanceWolf has the blink available, and he does have the ult available.
However, no one else on his team has an ulti to follow up. That's the one disconnect there. He used it during the tier 2 tower siege, didn't have it available for the left side Phoenix, and that could have been the difference between saving it or not, because nobody died from Victoria's Secret in that siege. If there was a Geb blink cataclysm there, maybe they find a kill onto Nazer that was getting dove by FrostiaK.
At the same time, this is late enough in the game. Stefan doesn't need an ult to be relevant. Knock up, backfire, a couple of basics from your Nemesis, that's dead.
But the problem without having Stefan's ultimate is now it makes LanceWolf's Blink Cataclysm less impactful. You're really trying to get these two ultimates to work in conjunction.
That's the goal, that's the dream.
Yep,
sometimes
and that's the dream of Victoria's Secret, to win if they're 18,000 gold behind.
Absolutely. You know what? Yeah, you do need the dream to really come back from this one. The Papis have won the games that they've won in such dominant fashion.
They have, but as well as losing some games in spectacular fashion during the SPL. So they're really trying to figure out ways to change their ways in terms of higher competition.
For me, it's always been the learning experience for the Papis. The Papis spent so long in the challenger scene, able to just sort of get to relegations and then scrub out, get to relegations and then scrub out, and now we finally see them in relegations after making the Smite Pro League. You learn after an entire split of the Smite Pro League, you learn how to improve. If we see the Papis play this relegation series as a challenger team, we only see the bad side. We don't see the good side. This is what Dheylo, Dracomarino, and Warchi, this is what the squad has learned with their split in the SPL, and you can look at the tape from this game, this day, and look at the tape from relegations past and see a clear difference. They understand the bigger picture, and that's why they're being successful right now.
I'm seeing a clear distinction in terms of communication of how Papis just play around each other more. Dracomarino is able to really dive those back lines, as well as whenever MrNazer gets dove by FrostiaK, he's instantly calling that out, and everybody from Papis turns to try to save their mid laner.
Right now, Papis have the Fire Giant for a long time, actually, just recently getting it. Warchi and friends on the right side, Creed splitting up on the mid lane. There's going to be the ultimate from Dracomarino, starting things off right. Blink forward from LanceWolf, but he's all by himself. Big hit onto Julio, and still priming the rest. There's a big shot. MrNazer takes out Mr. Stefan. Mr. taking him to business. Right side Phoenix in trouble. MrNazer picks up the double kill. Knock him in the Aegis. And Mr. FrostiaK is going to fall down as well. Warchi gets credit for that one. The Phoenix toppled. 3 players dead for Victoria's Secret. The Papis turn their sights to the Titan, and this will be game.
They have done it. They keep their relegation dreams alive. Papis are able to win against Victoria's Secret, and now it is so important for this next and potentially final game here. That was game number 8 of the day. I think the next game is Victoria's Secret against Burrito Esports. With 1 loss from Victorious, if they lose the next one, they're out, and Burrito and Papis will return to the SPL.
I know everybody's looking at Warchi. He's the guy swinging the big damage numbers, right? The crit obviously coming out, and there's good reason. But keep in mind, the reason he's able to do this is because of the farm that he was allowed, being left all alone on the left side of the map. And again, I bring it back to Dracomarino and Dheylo. These guys control the game, and in some games, Dheylo goes ahead and they take off with the lead and just let Ravana do things. And then the other games, you get this. The control of the other side of the map gives the hunter all the time in the world to farm up and just devastate people in the what should be mid-game, but it's late game for Warchi.
And kudos to his build to complement that kind of style. The front line between not only Dheylo and Dracomarino, but you can also include Creed into that equation to make it so much easier for Warchi playing the Jing and also Nazer on the Thoth that hit that clutch ultimate at the end of the game that eliminated Stefan and clipped Spudio.
What's fun for me about this is that I think you can see the strategy being started in picks and bans. We talked about the fact that the Jing is not a character that we see often. Well, she's going to be able to have AoE basic attacks and some crit built into her system. It was almost as if they said, we're going to set up the game so that Warchi can AFK farm forever, just be crit machine, and then you win the game for us later on. Okay? Okay, lock in. It seems as if they planned this from minute 1, and there's not much that I like more than a team that can choose a plan, draft it, execute it, and succeed. I love to see that in the Papis. And again, talking about growth, not something they had coming into the league, something they have now. Very nice to see that. And with that win, things are starting to shape up here in our European SPL relegation.
We're going to take a look here at the standings. Burrito Esports now with 3 wins, 1 loss. Papis with 3 wins, 2 losses. Victoria's Secret now is going to have this next elimination game against Burrito. If they don't win this one, it's going to be Burrito and Papis returning to SPL.
Exactly. So this is for all the marbles. Keep your eyes peeled. We'll be right back.